Okay, I think this is going. That's going very good, very good. Hi, hello there. I'm Flintworth, and welcome to the Warrior Workshop. A bit actually new-ish show. I think a bit more so like the 1.5 version. Anyway, this show is. Oh, that pressed the wrong button. We're not ending just yet. No, God, no. We just started. There we are. Apparently, my keyboard needs some work with the shortcuts. Anyway, hi. Warrior Workshop, the show where I've always tried to help my friends, my audience, you people out there, go and recreate all of your favorite characters from pop culture, namely for more playing as them. Now, in the past, this show has been mostly focused on just making character sheets, helping create character builds, and what have you, which I've seen for the most part has not been entirely popular. I'm not saying popular is the wrong choice. Needed. Yeah, I think there's plenty of other resources out there right now that I think do, I want to say, more proficient job at giving people the know-how on how to play certain characters or builds. But I didn't want to go and just give up on the show. No, which is why I'm here today with the main focus from here on out to help with the roleplay side of things. Now, if this is the first time you ever watched me or anything on my channel, I'm mostly horror-focused. I like to go and play horror games, talk about horror movies. But the other half of what I tend to do often is help people run their favorite tabletop games based on a lot of those films and games throughout the horror genre. And my main series, main video series I do, Creature Creator, has always been about helping DMs or GMs, Game Masters, go about playing up their favorite horror stories. And I've always hoped Warrior Workshop would do that, the same thing, but for players. And I decided recently to go and do what I've done with Creature Creator, which has been mostly focused on, I guess, more of what I know from my experience in theater and broadcast and with directing, but with the twist of taking what I know in theater and acting to kind of show people various tips and ideas that I would use to help them play as those characters, which is why today I'm going to give you a quick breakdown of what I would do to roleplay the infamous villain from Five Nights at Freddy's, William Afton, a.k.a. Springtrap, a.k.a. Burn Trap, Glitch Trap, the man that always keeps coming back. William, Purple Guy, for those who follow the game theorist side of the franchise, is the the villain, the arch bad guy of the whole animatronic nut house. And he's a fun character. He's let's allow to gush for just a brief moment. It's wild to see a character that embodies so much to such a passionate fan base, despite the fact that he really didn't have any kind of vocal lines until the later half of the franchise's life. I mean, the franchise overall is still young, but if we put it into eras, the main one for a lot of us, got to experience with its beginnings as it was being made by its original creator, Scott Cawthon, who recently has given over the reins technically to Steel Wool Studios, the guys behind Five Nights at Freddy's, Help Wanted, and Security Breach. During that little time there, that's where I was kind of getting at with, you really see Afton starting to really talk, really show more emotion and personality until the later games made by Cawthon, which is kind of my main focus on the tips and advice I'm giving today, is how to recreate that character you kind of hear and see in titles like Sister Location briefly, in Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria Simulator, and to an extent, Help Wanted and Security Breach later on. Because on my channel, and you should go check these out later on, I have had made plenty of guides on how to play up and recreate a variety of the Fazbear games, and not just D&D, but just tabletop games overall. And I realized that throughout all, I don't really give much tips on how to play as Afton. So, yeah. This is, yes, will be mainly tips for those players looking to recreate the baddie, but now for the DMs as well. Keep a few notes. Now, to keep things simple and, well, ideally to the point, because I am known to ramble, I'm going to focus on, I guess, 3 parts that I guess I would focus on if I was playing this character. And this goes for both in front or behind the DM screen. Because yes, I could totally see you taking the William Afton villain and making him part of a party of players. Whether that be a version of Afton that decided to go good, like a what if kind of scenario, or an Afton that was coerced into helping the heroes. Or maybe just a one-shot where you all play a bunch of baddies. Whatever the case, there is a few really cool things you can do to bring out the character. His malice, his scheming side, all those juicy little things that has made him such a fascinating, endearing villain. And character, I should say. First and foremost, the big section you probably could look into, I guess the first focus, is to really, well, the voice, honestly. The vocal work. Now, in acting, one of the big things we're kind of taught in training or just even with rehearsal is to really take note on how you use your vocalizations. That's, how to say this, how you speak is what I'm trying to say here. Because much like an instrument, your body has a variety of little tricks and little doodads, I guess you say, abilities, lack for a better phrase, that makes use of to make all kinds of sound. Now, don't be discouraged if you anything about to say, you can't do off the bat. Now, with practice, you can master a lot of this stuff. But a good idea to visualize what I'm getting at is think back when you were a kid, or even now, and whenever you had to make a silly voice or try to personate someone else, that you tended to use different parts of, well, your respiratory tract or your face and chest to make those voices. To get what I'm saying here is, I think like how you would maybe try to talk like a scary monster. You would probably squint your face and really try to talk with the top side of your head. Or maybe you clenched your throat to go into a deep, dark, raspy voice to get a kind of really scary tone. But see, all those little tweaks to my voice were done with different parts of my body, my physiology, because I'm trying to say here. And if you visualize, like from the tip of your nose to the pit of your diaphragm, there's like a whole range of sounds you can get making uses of different parts of that, to the point that kind of like a sliding trombone, if you want to visualize anything. If you really over time get a master of it and really practice with it, you can do all kinds of fun things to really bring a character's personality to life. Now, I know one of the biggest advice I was ever given before I became a DM was that to not worry too much on getting the right, don't worry about getting like accent and sound, because get more so like the right tone. And that's even another reason why we're going through with this first, because if you get the right tone and find it wherever it is, and from your lungs to your nose, there is so much you can do to bring a character to life. Now, how would I go do this with, well, Afton? I guess on my initial instinct, at least something that I've seen people do before, to try to get that classic line of, "I always come back." They kind of go for that nice throat clench, which, yes, if you're going for quick and dirty, it does a good job. It does really, get the tone right off the bat, and it's an easy, quick fix, as it were, for those that aren't have a more baritone voice like myself. Now, be that as it may, what I would recommend would be to, and you'll get this with practice, is instead of trying to clench up your vocal cords and around like the base of your neck, try to work the tone down to like the top, if you had to visualize it, the top of your lungs, right around, like, right here in the chest. A good way to visualize it is try to think, okay, trying to speak from the soul, from your heart. Because if you think about it, as a character, as Afton is not just, he is many things. He is an inventor, a family man to an extent, and very much a mad killer. But whenever you do hear him talk, he's passionate. He is soulful. He is, this life he leads comes from within, his spirit. And that's that spirit that keeps living on. And a good way to kind of get used to practicing these voices, by the way, is just to talk to yourself in the shower, or maybe you're driving the car or riding your bike or walking, places where you don't really about too much people really watching you, unless you don't care they watch you practice these voices. But once you do find that tone that helps you get the nice soulful start, that's where you can get more playful and bringing out more of the murderer and inventor. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, you think about it, Afton has two sides to him. There is the showman, the businessman he presents to the public. This is the one you kind of want, that chest that's more soulful, high tones. Then you go talk to people. Yes, come in. Behold my latest invention. She can sing, she can dance, she can blow up balloons, and even dispense ice cream for her fingertips. As you talk and use this more kind of high tone, you can make sure to smile, to really, I don't want to say become too joyful, or more so to put on that almost customer service smile. You're here trying to please the people you're talking to. And I'm not sure how many people out there notice this, but your voice does change based on, well, if you smile or not. Like, if I just talk to you now without smiling, it's more monotone, it's more flat. But if I do put a smile on there, it's more upbeat, more energetic. And that's the thing you need to keep in mind if you want to go and, as you play your Afton, maybe you want it to put up a front. This is a trick you can use. Just smile. Smile, and if you're worried about being too friendly, just think of it like you're a shark, a crocodile, talking to the fools, a cat, playing around with the mice, letting them know that, oh yes, come in, come closer. Come see my wonderful designs, my exquisite animatronics. But what about the killer side? Well, that's a cool thing. When you talk with really from the center of your soul, from your chest, is that wherever you want to need to go and play a different side of a character or a different side of the voice, all you have to do is it's just basically lower the octave, like control where the airflow is coming from, the tone, just ever so slightly, like a slider, and you can get all kinds of different things. So, for instance, if I go back to just really be more the showmanship, maybe leading a little child. Yes, don't worry. I know. I heard that your dog got ran over. Don't worry. They are alive. They're fine. Coming back. Come over here. This is a good point to point out. Try to be almost sing-songy, a little more wavy, calm. You try to calm them into a false sense of safety. Coming back. And when they're back, that's where you kind of lower just ever so slightly to get that more murderous side, the more insidious. So if I was going to go and bring him in and lock the door, I just lower it just a little bit. A little bit of a raspy voice. It's not too far away from where I was using before. If anything, it's almost the same area. I'm just kind of clenching it a little. But you notice, if you're listening more carefully, it has that same raspy sound that you're achieving up here in the back of your throat. But with it being down here in the lungs, you can contain this voice for a bit longer. You can use it to more carefully, like a surgeon cutting a knife into like a surgeon using a knife to cut into their patient. You can use his voice, just kind of cut into what scares your opponents most, your victims, your playthings. Oh, you want to know what your surprise is? Well, come here. Come closer, child. I have everything. they're right inside this machine, right over here. Just stick your head in just ever so briefly, and you'll get the surprise, the gift you seek. Oh, see? Just playing with the voice a little bit, it kind of gets me into the mood. Which I'll get to in a second. The mood's such a big thing when it comes to playing characters. But a big thing I want to say when it comes to the voice is that don't be afraid to use lines, catchphrases. I mean, you probably would if you're planning to play this kind of character. Because one of the big acting techniques I've always used is having like key phrases and like trigger words, trigger phrases that get into certain characters' personalities. Kind of like hone me in on the tone. It's really what it is. It's kind of like a tune-up, like you see guitarists or musicians do to kind of make sure everything is the right key. Like, for instance, I have a character that's a lizard folk in D&D who's this big meat eater. He's basically Killer Croc, but with an eating problem. Like, he's big, he's chunky. But to get into that character, I always just laugh to get down into my diaphragm, to get in nice low tones. Now, let's say I have a character that's more Irish. There's a word like country that really helps me get in to the more tones I use from that voice. Now, does that be a good accent? But it's finding those phrases can help you perfectly get boom to the part of your instrument, your vocal instrument, to get right back to that character. Like for me with Afton, I was flying around with it earlier today. If I had to pick any kind of key trick I use to get into that voice, it's probably just exhaling a little bit, and I'm there. So that's always a good trick when it comes to your vocal training. Now, all that's nice and dandy, but using your vocal powers to the greatest effect only gets you so far. It's always about how you feel the character, how you embody the character. Now, I'm not going to go and bore you with all the acting techniques, the method that you might learn if you ever study Stanislavski or a variety of other big-time acting methods. But the cliff notes is that when you try to embody a character, the biggest key advice I always got is to not try to act how you think they should act. Like, don't focus too much on what they do, but more so try to vibe out or feel out the why they do it. Like, what are they feeling during those moments? All this is really be about finding that nice structural foundation to playing any character, not just Afton. So, for example, if I was going to go and just try to act like William Afton, whether he's alive or dead in his old Springtrap form, I'd try to be creepy. Maybe with my eyes and smile. Like, oh yes, come in, child, come in. I got a surprise for you. It's just, all surface level stuff. Even if I was going to go kind of like creaky with being more Springtrappy and just more robotic. No. To really bring out any kind of character, whether good or bad, you got to think about the moods, what they're feeling. Because if you think about it, when you go about through life, you don't walk into a room and go like, okay, I need to act like this. No, maybe some cases. No, usually you walk in to any kind of situation and it's your mood that kind of fuels everything else that you do. Like, let's say for the greatest example, when you're sad, it just makes you maybe breathe more. Just think of how just all the things that come out when you're sad. I guess I'm trying to say here. So, for instance, like you're sad, you're slower, you take a time to really just form sentences together, and just creates this whole atmosphere, this aura around you. And that's the kind of thing that will help you a lot when getting into character. We're bringing out the life of Afton, who I would argue is very much a character or murderer hunter that's always scheming. His violence, his inventions are all almost like a game to him, a playful game. And I think the majority, if not all, of the fan art I've seen of him any of his, live or dead forms exemplify that. So, whether he's putting up a front, trying to fool the executives, to him, he is just playing around. He knows he's smarter than them. He is overjoyed that he's smarter than them, and he's just taking that in. He's telling them exactly what he wants to hear, but he is feeling inside every little hint of pride and joy, while being completely unaware that might be a bit of avarice in what he's doing. Even when he does get in for the kill, he does find them, he is still enjoying himself. He's enjoying that he's figured everything out. He is relishing in that no matter what you do to him, he will always come back. See, just by getting in the right mood, you can find the pacing, the tempo that brings everything else together. And the tempo, which really to me isn't a major thing, is also, it's kind of like a side thing, is worth practicing out too. Just how quickly you deliver words. Now, let's get a bit more tangible before I go even further into just talking about how to use your vocal cords and what you should be feeling in certain situations, using your emotions to your advantage as well. Because it's worth taking the time for the big third thing to really do a lot of is, frankly, research. If you're struggling with, find the right tone you like, or trying to find the right emotion, research in past examples of how other people have done their own characters can be such a useful thing to have in your back pocket to bring characters to life. Because I don't care how bad of an actor you think you are, imitation is a great way to not only practice those acting skills, but to also bring to life characters you may just have a rough time doing. And when it comes to playing villains like William Afton, there is a slew of movies and books you can go and look into. A little bit of, research material to suss out and build up the character, to make him to how you envision him. Because how I am playing the character, how I'm trying to describe it, may be vastly different to how you view Afton. And frankly, both mine and yours may change when the movie comes out later this year. But regardless, here are some recommendations I would say look into. Go maybe whether you find them online, whether it be clips on YouTube, or just checking it out from the local library. Maybe even have it at home. But I have a few things I want to show you here that kind of get you started. Now, a good way, I think, to get an idea of when I talk about just that kind of playful nature, just how he's the whole, William Afton as just kind of teasing and playing around with his victims and the people he's just fooling, would be to, frankly, go and watch the very classic, Universal monster movie of The Invisible Man. Because, yeah, it's actually any really kind of mad scientist story would be perfect to get to watching and getting some inspiration from, to bringing an Afton-like character to life. Because the Invisible Man, scientists go, yes, he's invisible, but the level of sheer pride and just slow descent into madness he portrays is wonderful. It's almost angry and spiteful. They have to go and explain down to the fools to understand how wonderful his invention is. And let's see. But if that's too old school for you, another way to kind of look at just an actor using their vocal cords to both portray a character that needs to put up a front when he's around normal people versus how he is around his enemies. You can look no further than William Dafoe in the Spider-Man Sam Raimi films, as he plays, Green Goblin and Norman Osborn. If you think about it, a lot of why I spoke today was kind of inspired by just how he plays that character, where he's both this strong, confident, proud businessman, but later on he is a full-on almost hammy cartoon character around Spider-Man, but it's the same character. It's believable no matter what kind of voice he uses. But go and watch it, and you kind of see exactly what I mean by just using the power of everything you have with your vocal range to bring both sides of a character to life. But role playing, I know, is not just about getting the voice and all that stuff done. Like, it's also about training out what to say, what kind of things to say. How do you go and play around with other potential characters, whether that be NPCs or what have you. Well, that's you kind of need to go and watch a few close clips of, well, like Pennywise in It, because if you ever watch that creepy ass clown, he does his puts on such a wonderful, wonderful front of just almost playing and teasing the children into a false sense of security. I could see easily being done to any of Afton's victims. Like, for example, the whole like opening scenes in the first movie when Pennywise is talking to Georgie. He's playing around. He's like goofy. He's a clown. He's a clown. And if they think, undoubtedly Afton, at least with some of his kills, when he's dressed up in the Spring Bonnie screw trap costume, probably did the same thing. He was joyful. He may put on a voice, which once again, the vocal range comes in handy. Where if you want to kind of go for more of that goofy voice, hi, hello, little Tommy, do you want to come over here and see your special pizza surprise? You can then, make use of like the high up in the roof of your mouth to get kind of those tones if you wanted to do that when Afton's kind of dressed up. But when it comes to actually describing actions too, there's a lot of inspiration, a lot of past media sources you can just watch and just get ideas from, just to add into your little improv tool bag. Because frankly, any actor, improvist, or DM player worth their salt oftentimes just take what they've seen before and recreate that. That's just why I'm suggesting so many of these things, just so you can have them and base your own actions and vocal work or just your own conversations that you come up on the fly based on what you've heard or seen before. Because that's what life is. That's how we act as human beings, and why should it be any different in games? Like, for instance, let's say, undoubtedly, any of these games, whether it's DND or any other like tabletop RPG, at some point you're gonna have to fight, right? Well, that's why you should look out more, frankly, a lot of more slasher films to get an idea of how maybe Afton fought. Or fights, because frankly in the games you just see him jump scare and kind of cuts the block. I'm not sure how he actually takes out his victims. However, fortunately for us, until the Fazbear movie comes out later this year, which go check that out. But if you still want a bit more inspiration, I recommend specifically looking into films like any Freddy Krueger's films from the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Now, granted, Afton isn't exactly, some kind of dream demon who goes and just warps reality to take out his victims. No, but I could totally see Afton playing with the children, like there is food. Like he's like a cat, Freddy Krueger, I mean. And I could see Afton applying many of the same things, whether it's using his inventions or almost like mind games to slowly scare the children into just a false sense of, well, he drives them insane, basically. I can see Afton doing a lot of the same things, and that's a kind of like shtick that could help you out when it comes to setting up your moments of how maybe you fight, how you combat. And if the mind games, or at least the nightmare visions that Freddy, does in his mainline films isn't enough for you, well, look no further than Freddy versus Jason, and how a character that's more on the weak, nimble, and more brainy side of attacks, handles himself against someone more brutish, like Jason Voorhees. But let's say you wanted to play an Afton, or a Springtrap, as it were, who's a bit more of a planner, more of a schemer, who he doesn't really go out of his way to hurt anyone. No, he gets other people to do it for him. Well, frankly, that there's plenty of stuff there as well. Like, more specifically, I know this might be a bit of a stretch, but it's worth just to get an idea of a fantastic schemer, a mastermind kind of villain. Spoilers to a comic that came out ages ago would be to go and read Watchmen, the old graphic novel by Alan Moore. Actually, I'm not going to spoil it. Let's at least tell you that if you're looking for characters that are wonderful examples of someone of villains who put on a facade, that have a full-on, mastermind plan that just uses people to be their pawns. There's no better source out there for that than the Watchmen series. If you read the series, you know who I'm talking about. And yeah, that character right there is exactly who I would suggest kind of like the villain of that, basically. I don't want to say what it is, because for those who haven't read it, you should. It's a work of art. But the character in it, the villain in it, I should say, is exactly the kind of character I would see me taking inspiration from to really play up that facade for most of the game, while knowing full well that I'm playing 4D chess. Speaking of 4D chess, if Watchmen is too heavy of a graphic novel series for you, but if you still wanted to find some character to kind of get into the headspace of how more schemer, more... That's what I'm looking at here. Pied Piper-like villains, then there's no other... Then you really should go check out IDW's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series. It's currently running right now, but the villain that the Turtles fight in their series, the Rat King, is like an opposite end of, well, more like Moriarty-esque characters. Like, the Rat King is more upfront. He is clearly playing mind games. He's openly manipulating people to almost a cartoony extent that I could see anyone wanting to play more of a playful, more juicy out front, less mind gamey, more like out in the open kind of schemer. Then Rat King, go check him out. Go look up a few of his schemes against the Turtles, and you can, there'd be a lot for you to go and make use of, to pull into your own games and play style. But I did want to at least touch on briefly, with all this in mind, and when it comes to even putting together your character, I know we've kind of been all over the place and different things you can pull from, you can make use of, but I really haven't touched just yet on how you would go about building your character. Like, I'm not saying like building the character sheet, like that really depends on the game you're playing and the play style you like. Like, personally, I guess just go over that briefly. If I was going to do D&D, I would personally go for more either like a rogue or a bard, or maybe a mix of the two when it comes to trying to play as Afton. But the background you choose will determine so much in how you play the character in your game. And it's something that really worth, sitting down and writing out. Speaking of which, this goes with any character you try to build up. Write it knowing that you may not ever get to say all of it, and that's okay. Like, one of the first biggest things I learned when I started to do a lot more outdoor improv theater is their character's backstory is mainly beneficial to you and no one else, because it's going to be rare you get the chance to kind of like come forward to your audience, to your players, whether you be a DM or someone in the party. You will rarely get the chance to be like, hello, yes, hi, I'm William Afton. I'm secretly a child killer, animatronic building evil villain, and I got this way because, and yeah, you're never going to get that. You're never going to get that. No. But having your backstory kind of written up and thought out will help you make your character come and have so much more life and believability to them. It basically, reading your background and choosing your personality traits and all that is helpful for you. So, yeah, go ahead, write a novel or write a paragraph. Just write, or even just the bullet points. Anything you need to kind of help fuel your choices will do you wonders when playing your game. It'll help you avoid moments where you just kind of sit down and just don't know what to say. Now, when it comes to building that character, I guess you need to consider many things, like, mainly what kind of game you're becoming a part of. Whether it is, are you playing a one-shot with a group of villains, or maybe you're playing a full-on campaign with a group of villains, or maybe I mentioned this earlier, are playing a character that got coerced in some way to helping save the world. Well, there's ways to play that up and still be a monster in the party and not lose your, street cred of being an evil villain. Now, at the simplest, when it comes to making your backstory, you could go the route of taking inspiration from the premise of Suicide Squad and say, oh yes, I'm here. I'm going to help you all to save the world. Because if I don't, someone will blow up my head. You don't have to know that. They can just find out later. Maybe not at all. I'm doing this out of the kindness of my heart of having a redemption arc, which, yes, could work as well. Maybe you're playing a William Afton who has changed his ways. It doesn't matter what. But choosing the right tidbits can help out. Frankly, what I've always wanted to do, if I got the chance, seeing as so much I've had to talk about Freddy Fazbear and all that, would be to take inspiration from Willy Wonka. Yes, from Roald Dahl's The Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka. And play up what if Wonka was actually an evil villain? 'Cause I'm not sure if you've ever seen the old classic Gene Wilder, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. But even though, yes, he's a good guy in that film, he is, kind of scary at times. And that's how I would go and base a lot of my background on. Yes, I am joyful not to present myself to kids, but I'm doing this all from myself. I am a businessman at heart. I don't mind if children are getting caught up in accidents in my workshop, my factory. Oh, they should know better. And I didn't choose those kids. They didn't. There's all random chance. I'd accept all these contraptions, take them out one by one. No, never. But that's the other big thing, that's why I'm bringing all this up. The whole practicing your vocals, your mood, and just really building up the research and foundation of it all, because all three of these things are like the main ingredients to the cake you are baking when it comes to roleplay. And just putting a little bit of time in each one of those things will do wonders at bringing a character to life. Now, if I was going to go do just that, for a few examples, put this. I have so many movies and graphic novels over here. I need to go and put this up later. If we bring all of that together to kind of show how each thing falls into place, I would just take. I need an example. I need an example here. Let's say you're having your big reveal, whether for good, better, or worse, you're about to start a fight and you're throwing down all pretenses that you're a respectable businessman. You're going to go full rage mode, taking out the fools who've decided to cross you or who have fallen into your trap. I would think of the mood. It'd be excitement, pride at all my plans coming together. I would think out, I would choose my words carefully. Yes. My words would be chosen carefully because I want to savor every moment. And I would use the mood, this excitement, to really just be careful, to really be deliberate. I would then find the voice. I am more of the heartful soul as I'm getting closer as I'm trying to maybe monologue a little, maybe just making them hear and feel every word in my voice as I slowly drop down to that killer octave, as they realize that, yes, I am not the kind soul they thought I was, but the excited killer who knows full well that I'm about to have some fun. And there I would think, to all the research I've done, all the things that I have gathered up to this point when I'm playing up this character, and how I know certain villains like me, Freddy Krueger, would like use his hands to kind of show the implements that he's about to go and bring towards and destroy his foes with. Whether it be, be a knife, maybe it would be like the claws on the suit I am wearing. Maybe it would be them realizing that the kind animatronic that was they believed to be just a soulless construct was very much possessed by an evil killer, and they realized as they come stepping closer and closer that they are about to be undone. And as the fight would play out, or the scene plays out, maybe I'll get excited. Maybe I'll go and start to get more raving mad, using my diaphragm to punctuate every last word. And you can see how using all those techniques kind of like just roll more and more as you just play around, as expand upon them. And before you know it, you'll be having a ball as they realize that they are not dealing with just any old villain recreation. No, they are dealing with a deceitful, hungry killer. And if you get all that right, even if it's just a little bit, you and your friends are going to have so much fun as you play around in the scene, in the moment, in the game. And you just explore from there as you go on. And I assure you, the more you play, the more you work on all three of these things, the more this character will come to life. Now, I was going to go and try to answer any questions, but I'm not sure if anyone's actually watching this right now, which is totally fine. But if you're watching this after the fact, please ask questions down below if you need me to expound on anything I've suggested or brought up today. I know it's a lot of techniques and theories that don't really have any concise mental things to kind of like to quantify them with. So if you need me to clarify any more, please, by all means, let me know. I have a lot to say when it comes to playing characters. It's one of my favorite things to do as a DM. And I would love to help anyone out there kind of find the things they need to bring not just William Afton to life, but any kind of villain or hero they would like to just find a few tricks, find a few more tools to make them come to be more alive. Before I go, I do want to say this one last thing that can really help as well. Just a kind of a side bonus tip that is worth considering whenever it comes to playing any kind of character, is to think on how you look. Maybe like your sight towards someone, whether it's the DM or to players. Just think of how you position the head. It's a simple trick you can do, but it's very effective done well. What I mean by this is that if you ever kind of watch shows, take note of how actors or anyone really talks to people. Because based on how they position their heads, you can get different kind of moods, different kind of impressions, different kind of character types. If they're more friendly and joyful, they might kind of like try to present their smile more. They'll kind of bend their head a little bit up to like show more light in their eyes as they just talk. They're happy, they're joyful, like haha, yes, it's good, yeah. But if anyone who wants to be more devious and evil, all it really takes is just tilting your head a little bit, just slightly enough to look like you're some kind of chess player or mastermind. It's kind of like staring down your foe. And you get more malice, you get more seriousness as the shadows kind of drape more of your eyes. And the more you get, the more just creepier and just more sinister you become. That's why I really look at some of the animations that Scott Cawthon used. There is how he poses the animatronics embodies a lot of that. And hello. Oh, hey, fun. Go on, didn't realize you were here. But this was very important and fun. Thank you. I'm glad you had fun there. I'm glad there's someone here. It's hard to tell. I don't have like the viewer count up, but no, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Nothing else. I feel kind of rude now, assuming there was no one here. But Yes, more to the point. When it comes to like facial positions, always play with that. There's so many fun little things you can do. It doesn't really bring a character to life, but it does set the mood. And if you do take, and if anything, it's like the spice. You can kind of spice up a performance. And as a second little bonus tip, when it comes to playing villains or killers, don't ever break eye contact. Just stare at the victim, the monster. And if you have to describe that you're doing this, because frankly I know it's hard to stare someone down, especially if you're friends and still be in character. It's okay. Especially because, blinking itself is, instinctive. But if you can pull it off, just stare. Stare like you're reaching for their soul. Because a predator never keeps its eye off its prey when it's ready to go make the kill. So yeah, I could go on, but I don't want to make this too long. So yeah, I think that's where I'm going to end this, at least today. I'm going to go right there. Boop, there we are. So yeah, Found a Ghoul. Anyone else who may be hanging out, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I'm hoping to do more of these kind of like acting workshops for other characters. I kind of like this a bit more. It seems it's less dry than just building character sheets. So let me know what you thought about it. Let me know how I can make this better, because I want to kind of fine-tune this whole kind of format until I get to the right vibe. Because I think it'd be really helpful and frankly a lot of fun to give my suggestions to play any kind of characters. And furthermore, if you have any ideas on other characters I could cover in this format, please let me know, because otherwise I'm spitballing what you might all want to hear out there. In the meantime, this Thursday we'll be going, Jade and I, jumping back into playing more Freddy Fazbear Pizzeria Simulator. We have to get through night 3 and get through a lot of jump scares, so I'm going to do my best to not blow out your eardrums by making sure we turn the sound a little bit more this time. But yeah, we'll probably be screaming our heads off, because Jade and I don't do well around jump scares. I plan to have Megan Creature Creator out tomorrow. I have like maybe a minute left to kind of finish up the editing on. But yeah, that should be out tomorrow. I already have the character sheet put together. I'm can't wait to see that get used out in the wild. And if nothing else, yes, you too, Phantom Ghoul. I hope you too also have an amazing day. I really can't see what we also make next. I'm glad you guys get excited by this stuff, because it helps me get more excited. It gives me energy. I feed off your feedback, so please, that's why I'm always saying, let me know what you think. And lastly, it's coming. It's on YouTube. You have to be expected. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit that bell to make sure you're notified of my other stuff. And if you don't, no worries. I still think you're cool and you're beautiful either way. I'll see you tomorrow, technically, and Thursday. And yeah, enjoy the weather if it's nice where you are. If it's not nice, well, then go play some video games. Yeah. This is Flintworth signing out. Bye.